Hello everyone. Oh my gosh, I've got my ring light on today and it's doing all kinds of weird things. I wonder if that makes any difference. Anyway, we're just gonna have to get over that. Hello, welcome to the Coffee Run episode number 223. I'm really excited to chat with you guys today, whether it's live on our live stream or whether it's in your car, on the audio, or on iTunes or on podcast or wherever you happen to be coming on. The topic of what I wanted to talk with you about today is how often the answers to the questions that we have, or the anxieties that we have, or the stresses that we have, or even how it is that we're going to achieve what it is that we want, are often right under our very noses. I just got off a call with a client of mine, and we were talking about this program that she's creating, and it's really freaking amazing. So this woman has the most amazing amount of qualifications. She's got the most amazing, beautiful heart, and what she's doing is so important and necessary in this world. She's not a coach. She's in a service-based industry. And I think what's really interesting is that we can sometimes forget how much we know. We can sometimes forget how the answers to what it is that we need to do can be right under our very noses. So one of the things that I suggested to her, and this might work for you guys, it's a little bit of a marketing hack. As a quickly brief aside, we have got, just so that I don't forget to mention it, we've got Visible Live happening very soon. Make sure you jump in and grab your ticket for that. There are still some available. nicolamoras.com.au/rockstar. 3 days of not just me teaching you at the front of a room like a seminar, but actually getting in as a bit more of like a workshop style event where you'll have your marketing sorted, your planning sorted, you'll know your content for the next year, and everything else like that in a small intimate room with completely amazing badass business owners. So make sure you jump in on that. So one of the things that we were talking about with this particular client, who was actually at my place a couple of weeks ago doing something similar to what we'll be doing for Visible Live, which is all about marketing yourself like a rock star. She had this workshop that she wanted to promote, and the suggestion that I gave to her, I said, can you tell me a little bit about an individual person who you know, someone who you actually know? Tell me a bit about that person. What are they going through? What is their life experience right now? And she was telling me about one of her friends, and it's just a really sad story, and some things that he's going through. Hey, Jeanette, some things that he's going through, and how his life is kind of just in this, upended turmoil, and he doesn't know that he doesn't know which way to go, and is doing these some really destructive, very unresourceful behavioral patterns that are not really very good. And so I said to her, is this the type of person, hey Jeanette, is this the type of person that should be in this program of yours? And she's like, oh my God, yes, like I would make this program for him. And I've gone, okay, brilliant. So what is it that you feel like you need to say? And she started reeling all of that off. And I said, oh, that's awesome. What I want you to do is write a letter for him to like really kind of almost explain that things are going to be okay. That, he's not alone, and this, that, and the other. So something that you might like to consider is, if you're thinking about, and this is the thing, like with marketing, so many people get caught up with, oh, but I need to sell my program, I need to sell my workshop, I need to sell my event, I need to sell my book, I need to sell this thing, I need to sell all of this stuff. Like, how the hell do I do that? More often than not, the answer isn't, well, go and create some marketing content. It's about connection, right? So like, I know that for you guys, a lot of the time, well, when we're really trying to step up into that rock star persona of ourselves, which to me, like the rock star persona is kind of like someone who knows that they're amazing at what they do. They've got the confidence, they've got the clarity, they've got their voices there, you know, they've got the intellectual property to back all of that up. You know, you are, for all intents and purposes, you are an expert at what it is that you do. And yet sometimes, as with a lot of creative people, we can get into self-doubt, right? So when we're thinking about our marketing, we're often thinking, well, what do I need to say in order to get people to buy? Which is a really normal thing, right? We're in business. We need to make money. Otherwise, we've just got a hobby, or a very expensive hobby at that. And often we're sitting there thinking about ourselves. We're thinking about how many people we want in the room. We're thinking about how great it would be to have 50 people in a course. We're thinking about all of this stuff, how much money we're going to make, what we're going to spend it on, and all of this, that, and the other. It becomes kind of a very, I'm an advocate for you being selfish and for you definitely setting your goals for what it is that you want to do. But when it comes to marketing, what most people will tell you is, well, go and talk into the problem that this person is having, provide them with a solution, take them through the problem solution path, which is a great tactic. But it misses a lot of the heart stuff a lot of the time. And so what I'd suggested to this client is actually sit and write a letter to this person as if you were writing to your friend, which in this instance it was. Write the letter to the person from the heart. You know, what is it that you really, really feel like you need to say? What is it that you really feel like they need to hear? What is it that is keeping them awake at night? And what if you let them know that actually this stuff that's keeping you awake at night is not always going to be keeping you awake? That there is a way for things to change, that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And write it from that space. Sometimes if we're thinking about, the second we sort of think, oh, I've got to write a landing page, or I've got to write a post where I'm offering my stuff for sale, or I've got to write a sales page, or I've got to go write a newsletter. It's almost like this, like we will go clunk straight back into, oh, I've got to write some business copy kind of mode. So I want you to flick out of that and think, well, you know, imagine that you were back in the 50s when letter writing, or maybe even the 70s or the 80s. I had a pen pal in the 80s who lived in New York, in Albany, New York, actually. And I remember that, so that was the 80s, maybe even early 90s. So letter writing was still strong, even in the early 90s. There you go. Write a letter from the heart to your people. Something that could even be more powerful is if you are, and this is helpful if you're an evolved version of the clients you want to work with. Like if you're far further along the way, because otherwise you're no good to your people, right? You know, one of the reasons that I'm helpful to you is because I've already, I know how to market. I know how to do this stuff. So, you know, think about it as if you were you 2 years ago, perhaps, before you knew what you know now, or 5 years ago before you knew what you know now. And maybe even write a letter to yourself. The other thing that you could do is pretend that you're that person and writing about what you're experiencing right now. So in this particular instance, an example might be, actually I'll use the example of my client. So she works with people through grief who've had someone close to them die. And said, you know, if you, and she's had some really important people in her world, very close family members, die as well. And I said, well, what if you were to write a letter to the person who's passed away, you know, the person who's died? What would you say if you're you writing to that person? What would you say? What would you write to you if you didn't know what it is that you know now? And I guess what that did is it shook and took her out of, and what my aim is for you guys is to get you out of your, I've got to write a piece of marketing copy, or I've got to be a copywriter, or I've got to be professional, or I've got to do whatever. Let's put all of that aside and just come back to the heart of people, because people want to know that you care. People want to know that what they're experiencing is not, even though it might be normal, I use that word loosely, but they want to know that there's other people who have gone before them, and that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, or that they can achieve their goal, or that this, the darkest hour is going to shift and change. And I guess the other thing to consider in your letter writing, and this is something that I adopt, is like, if nothing changes, what happens? And, if you guys don't market yourselves in, whether it's like the way that I suggest that you do it, or anyone, if you don't market yourself, then it's unlikely that you're going to get clients, because no one will know that you exist. There's online marketing, there's offline marketing, there's a myriad of different ways that you can do that. But if you're not out there promoting yourself, if you're not out there getting yourself out there in some way, shape or form, people aren't just going to magically go, oh, I need to go and buy from that person, because they don't even know that you're there. So, I guess the thing that we've got to think about is like, well, what would be the next step for someone? And it might be where you describe it as like, the next step that you decide to undertake is that you've really got to learn more about this, or that you've got to go and find some people who you align with that are going through some similar things. There's a reason why there is so much group work that creates really great results for people, right? Because it helps them to bounce things off each other. It helps them to see and realize and feel like, actually, you know what, I might be a little bit delusional, but so are all of these people. So let's all be delusional together. It's why things like Alcoholics Anonymous work really well, because it's we're not feeling like an isolated island where it's only us going through this stuff. So if it's for your people, no matter whatever it is that you are doing, or no matter what it is that you're selling, then that's a very different way of being able to connect with your potential prospects, or your potential audience, your potential clients, in a way that is not just like, hi, I am a real estate agent who does this, versus being someone who talks about the trials and tribulations of buying and selling, and about how amazing it is to like walk in and just go like, this is the house that I need to live in. I know that this is exactly where I need to be. So, it's all about creating connection and creating emotional connection. And this is the stuff that doesn't change based on a Facebook algorithm changing. This is the stuff that doesn't change based on whatever it is that people do in the back end, like these businesses do in the back end to tweak with the advertising reach or whatever else, yeah? So the thing that doesn't change is emotional direct response marketing. Because if you can help people feel heard, if you can help people feel valued, if you can help people to realize that actually they're not alone, and it's okay to want what it is that you want, and you're showing them that you're like, I wrote about this yesterday or the day before in a blog, where I kind of see it like I feel like a lighthouse sometimes, where I'm like, I've got this big, light spinning. I'm like, here I am. This is the way that you can do your stuff. Look out for those rocks, and I just sit there. I'm not like, if I'm being a lighthouse person, my job is to just shine the light, let people know that there's help, let people know the things to avoid, and, everybody else will come in. Rather than thinking, oh, I've got to do this thing to be able to go and sell some stuff. I've got to do this because I've got to go, I've got to make sales. I've got to have 50 people in here to make it worthwhile. What if I lose face because I don't have the number of people in a program that you wanted? You know what? It's fine. No one else knows what your goals are. No one else knows what your goals are. But the second that we get caught up in, how can I make more sales? And then really thinking about it, what copy do I then need to create? What live stream do I then need to do? Blah, blah, that kind of thing. Then we sort of slip out of that way to being able to create a connection with people. So the thing that I wanted to talk about with things being right under your nose was, this is a conversation I had with this client, and she's like, oh, okay, so how do I create content over the next, we've got 3 weeks to promote this, this is where I get stuck. And I've gone, okay, cool. Talk to me about the modules of your program. And she went through, and I said, well, and it's running for X amount of time, right? And she said, yes. I said, so What if we talk every day about a topic that you're talking about in your program? So in my example for Visible Live, the very first thing that we do is get you really clear on what the fuck it is that you want to talk about. What is it that you want to share? What do you feel like your message is? What do you feel like your purpose is? What do you feel like you've got like burning inside you that you really need to get out and talk about? And then the second piece is audience. It's always audience. You know, who are the people that you want to work with? Who are the people that you want to help? Who are you the lighthouse for? Who are you there standing tall, shining that light, letting people know that there's help should they choose to look at it, engage with it and follow it? And then how are you going to create that emotional connection? And so for her, like she'd had this big piece of flip chart with the whole program mapped out. I'm like, what do I do? I'm stuck for ideas. I'm like, just use that. It's mind blowing, right? Particularly if you've already like mapped out something and you're thinking, shit, how am I going to market this? Go and use the outline of your program as your prompts for your live stream or for your blogging or for the posts that you put up. Like, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. Yeah? And it's not about, we don't have to try to be clever. Let people know. And what I mean by that, we don't want to be, we don't have to try and be clever about the way that we sell. Okay, was what I was trying to say there. We don't have to try and disguise it in some fancy sandwiching it in between stuff kind of way. We don't want to we don't need to be sneaky. We don't need to be worried that people are going to be like, oh my God, she's like, or he's selling to me again, you know, get away from me, man. You know, if you're out there adding value, then it's really, the way I look at it, we have a duty of care to let people know how they can buy from us if they want to, right? Why is that a bad thing? It's not a bad thing. Visible Live, you can sign up my website /rockstar. You know, it's easy. I'm not trying to manipulate you into doing something that you don't want to do. You've got control, my friends. You can either go and have a look at it or not. It's completely up to you. So it's not about trying to be trying to sandwich stuff into other things. It's not about trying to be sneaky about it. Just be open and let people know, hey, you know, I'm going to educate you on some stuff. If you want to buy from me, I'll let you know how that works. And if you don't, then that's totally cool too. Keep hanging around. Maybe you don't even know if you like me yet. Maybe you don't even know if you trust me yet. And that is totally fine. You know, my job, the way that I see it is, and the way that I see every one of your jobs, is to be showing up, to be sharing your message, educate, entertain, and then let people know how they can take the next step if they feel like they want to do that for you. And we don't have to be, you know, there's no shame in selling. You know, who said that it was a bad thing to make money or bad thing to sell? And I think for women particularly, or for people over certain ages where social media doesn't always come really easy to us, we don't want to feel like sleazy car salesmen. But the thing here is that sleazy car salesmen will try and sell you a piece of shit car for a lot of money. Like they might use manipulative tactics. They might have you sign sneaky contracts. They might have you do all of this stuff, right? But really, instead of going like, oh, I don't want to be a sneaky car salesman. Okay, great. We're not going to do that anyway. And you can't possibly be, because your stuff is great. Your stuff is awesome. Your programs, your workshops, your events, what it is that you are creating is awesome and valuable and needed and necessary in the world. We don't need to even consider that people might think of us like that. Be open to say, hey, if you want to buy from me, this is how we buy. Often what happens though is the stuff that when we slip into this really kind of thinking of, oh my gosh, I've got to go do some marketing. It's really easy to we've been conditioned, I guess, to kind of knee jerk back and go, oh, I've got to do it in a particular kind of way. Write letters, write poems. I've got another client who, one of the best performing advertising campaigns, he's made hundreds of thousands of dollars from an ad that is a poem. Straight out poem that was written from the heart. It's freaking amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Hundreds of thousands of dollars from a poem that he wrote. We've got other people who have, who have written checklists and things like that, or posts for people that are absolutely from the heart and have had the most amazing reactions because of it. And it's not something when you open up a newspaper, you don't see, for example, we don't see this emotional direct response marketing. We see binary marketing, which is like, if you have this problem, then you need to have this solution, and it's impersonal. We know that newspaper, traditional media advertising is particularly expensive, and it's really hard to get a really good return on it, right? So the thing that we've got to come back to, and this is the thing that's always right under our nose, the second we go, oh, but how do I write a sales page that's going to convert? I better go learn how to do some really good copywriting. Or I've got to write a lead page, or I've got to write a lead magnet, or I've got to go write an email. The best thing that you can ever do is, number one, take a look at what's right underneath your nose. The second thing is write something that is emotionally impactful, and letter, poem, whatever. Or just like a blurt. Another client was getting, I think, $1 leads for $1. So name and email addresses for $1. Which is really kind of abnormal these days. But she was getting ones for that, and it was this big blurt that she did on Facebook in an ad. It was really about connecting with people and letting them know that it's okay and that there is another way for them to be able to do what it was that they wanted to do, which is business from soul, essentially, rather than trying to force it into some like a 9 dots kind of way of doing things. And then the other thing is, like, we don't complicate it. All right, keep it really simple. If you've mapped out a product or a service or a program or an event or a workshop, chances are, if you've done the work on doing that, if you've done the work on mapping it out, use that stuff to inspire you for your content creation, rather than sitting there thinking, oh God, what am I going to do this live stream about? Just go look at the curriculum, and then talk about it. Doesn't have to be as hard as we're making it out to be. And then the other part about that is that usually what happens is that it really, because it's almost like we've been watching Stranger Things. Not that I think that you're a monster, but if you imagine that this, these hands kind of like go, and then it like attaches into the hearts of people, and then you've got this connection with them. Like, that's really where we want to connect with people, right? It's not just in here, because if people are only ever making decisions to work with you from the head, then it's a different connection that they have with you. The people that are going to be your hot cold clients are going to connect with your heart, your soul, your energy, the overall tone and message of what it is that you're doing. It's not just the ones and zeros of what's included in your package type stuff. Okay, there you go. Often the things are right under your nose, so it's time to open your eyes and look at what's actually there. All right. Hey, Tamara. Hey, Joe. So that's that for me today. As I said, if you want to learn how to do all of this, my very open and not at all sneaky car salesman way of letting you know is, I'm going to put this link in the comments. It is nicolamoras.com.au/rockstar. And it is an epic 3-day immersion where we are going to be working on your business, not just in your business. And we are going to have all of your marketing mapped out, laid out, drafted, and actually being created while you're in the room. Okay, so you will walk out with sales copy done, with landing pages done, with free things done, with whatever it is that you need, but we're going to do it from alignment first. It's always from alignment first, making sure you've got the right mindset around it. Yeah, and then we'll get into where we're going to place it and how we're going to do your marketing. But everything always, and I've been saying this for freaking years, everything always has to come first and foremost from a place of alignment. Because otherwise you can be perceived as being that sleazy ass car salesman who's only ever in it for the quick buck, come hell or high water. We don't care what happens when you walk out the yard. And that is not us. That is not you. We're the exact polar opposite of you. Now, I know that if you're chatting to someone and what you're delivering isn't the right fit, you would let them know. because that's the level of integrity that my clients have. It's a level of integrity that you have. It's like, we will not ever take on anyone when it's not the right fit, when it's not the right alignment. So we are the polar opposite of a car salesman. And what that means for you is that you then have the confidence and the gumption almost, and the rock star attitude to say, well, you know what? This is freaking badass. This thing that I'm doing is freaking amazing. And if you're not in it, then that's totally fine. But the people who are in it are fucking awesome. And, this is no brainer. And if you don't do it, that's fine. But you really should, right? So long as it's the right fit. That's what I want for you. If that's what you want for you, then that's even better. All right. Have a really amazing day, everybody. It is Crazy Thursday today. So get out there, go help some people, be visible, and remember that the world is ready for your brand of awesomeness. I will chat with you tomorrow on the Coffee Run. Go kick some ass.